Today on KBlend, a brief sample from Truthbook.
It's as if the creator's been waiting for each individual, like walking alongside them. And then one day they just stop and they pause. And in that moment of stillness, they're touched in a way that doesn't make sense. Like they'd been waiting their entire life to feel this touch for the first time. And that's why, like, we often tell family members not to ask patients how they did right after their treatments, because we know that patients, as soon as they stop and they shut off the ruminating thoughts and their mind settles, that their emotions come back and they start to feel things that don't make sense. And that's when the depth and the meaning of life hits them. And I've gone back to just basic Sunday school teaching from when I was a kid to understand, God can do anything. Like, he can speak the world into existence. We've all heard the first of Genesis, Revelations, kind of basic Sunday school answers, right? But it never occurred to me that there was one thing God couldn't do. He couldn't force us to allow intimacy in our lives. So it got me thinking some more. There's a story of Moses at Mount Sinai. And it talks about even his likeness on his face has changed. And I began to recognize, wow, when people come to this clinic, they change. Like, I'll walk by their rooms at times and I'll be like, wow, oh, by the way, he has a name. And then they'll just be like, oh, how did you know? Like, how'd you even know I was dealing with? And what they don't realize is everyone does the same thing. Like, you spend your life giving good words to God, and then one day you actually touch and you experience and you know something that's completely different. It's as if your body was designed for communion with the Creator. Like, above all things, the Creator could speak it all into existence. Like, there's nothing you can do today that determines whether the sun will come up tomorrow or not. But yet we live our lives sacrificing the moment for an opportunity to gain some sense of control over tomorrow. It's as if we're playing God rather than allowing God to be God. So what can we accomplish other than giving him a willing heart? God doesn't need your strength, your power, or anything. Like, the sun's going to come up tomorrow, whether you decide it or not. So you're going to do nothing to force it. So it also begs the question, okay, what if I clean up my life first? I make myself better. I learn to say the right things. Like, it's really the teaching in church today is, if we know the Bible better and we teach the Bible, eventually people will start to look like Christians. Kind of like putting lipstick on a pig. But the problem is we're trying to earn connection with God through knowledge, when he really doesn't care if you know what his name is. What he's looking for is, will you stop long enough? Isaiah 55, be still. Know me. That's how you find a Savior. And we have good examples. Israel entered Egypt because Egypt had bread. The place preserved them and also became the place that enslaved them. We have great examples today where, in our despair, communism and different forms of government control become enticing to us. When we're not dependent upon a savior, we need a government. And so a lot of the story of Egypt really goes back to the idea that as soon as we put our faith in the state becomes the savior. And we've all gone into slavery and our bondage in Egypt the minute we allow the government, the community, somebody else to take care of us other than living by that faith. As soon as we have to be in control and we have to have a guarantee of something, that's when we're in trouble. So, government can serve a purpose. Government cannot become God. So one of the things I've learned is it's about creating safe spaces. And that's why KBlend is so powerful, because in the safe space inside the clinic, we attach patients to the wall with all these wires, and we know their blood pressure, their vitals. We have medical staff watching over them. And suddenly they don't have to, for just a moment, be in control of their life. They can allow themselves to slip away and not have to maintain that grip on their life. And suddenly everything changes. Effectively, we move from us being God, suddenly we allow God. And so I think that's why in our clinic, we have so many of these experiences where people who really have not even Sunday school answers, you could call them complete pagans, people that have no sense of a God, suddenly have an encounter that changes them. And they don't even know his name. We can choose whether we're going to accept promises and guarantees in our life, or if we're going to enter into slavery. And really, the way I've come to see it is this depression thing is really just slavery. You're choosing to control the future rather than playing Lord over the moment. Egypt teaches this concept very clearly. Egypt teaches slavery, the wilderness teaches dependence, the promised land teaches stewardship. There's so many biblical references that we can go through. At the end of the day, what it really just shows us is God has built this anxiety into our bodies. It's a boundary signal. It tells us that we've stepped beyond what we've been given. And if God is in control, then we don't have to be in control of tomorrow. And so by definition, anxiety goes away. Like, if you think about really what is anxiety, anxiety is literally nothing more than your attempt to control tomorrow. And what God has actually given you is lordship over the moment. You can choose in the moment whether you're going to worry about controlling tomorrow or whether you're going to allow God to take care of tomorrow. God's going to bring up the sunset tomorrow. God's going to bring the sun up in the morning. Like, you have to make the choice in the moment. And the choice you make in the moment is what changes things. The prison of depression really is very similar to Joseph. In the prison, you're prepared. You're in your wilderness. You're coming to understand what it is that God had for you. And so suddenly you can take all those years that you lost, and instead of mourning those years, they can give you the opportunity to have the true depth and the beauty and the majesty and the preciousness that God intended for you. So you can move from saying good things about God and spending the rest of your life experiencing God. And so you have to make that choice. You have to decide, what is the purpose of your life? Is it to gain control of your circumstances, or is the purpose of life to become the kind of person who discovers God is sufficient within the circumstances? If you're living your life hoping so that one day you'll be able to have those things and reach certain levels, enjoy things, the day is certainly never going to come. The beauty in life is in today, in the moment that you have. And you got to decide what you're controlling. You got to ask that this God never asked you to carry these things. And so you're carrying these things that you can't put down. That's why KBlend is so powerful. That's why Truthbook is changing people's lives, because you're trying to control your life. You're trying to find the magic pills. You're trying to find the magic everything that's going to be the next solution for you. But really, God never asked you to carry any of that. In your moment of weakness, in your moment of vulnerability, that's when you'll discover what life can have. And so I suggest that you join Truthbook before you get to the point that you need a medical chemical intervention. You can learn more about how we use anesthesia today, not as a antidepressant, but rather as a medication be able to draw you out of this loop that you get trapped in. You would think that a mental health practice like KBlend would use antidepressants and benzos and all the other SSRIs. But really, most of our practice is based on getting people off of those things. As you come out of controlling your life, you suddenly don't need all those things. It's literally like your body stops fighting against you the moment you allow God to be God. But the problem is, you may be so far gone that you can't find your way out on your own. You can study all the scriptures that we walk through today. You can intellectually know that you should surrender. You could say that you surrender. But the problem is, if you can't emotionally do it, you can't bond, you can't have intimacy, you can't know the beauty of life, you can't even know the warmth of the sun on your skin anymore. That's when you need intervention. But if you join us today, get on Truthbook with us, you can join a path with those who have already walked this, who have walked out of it, and you may be able to get yourself out of this without needing medical intervention. So sign up today, get on Truthbook, let us help you, guide you out of this.
Complete the experience. Sign up at www.mykblend.com or call 734-605-8500.
Welcome to the KBlend Show. Honest conversations about God, mental health, and chronic pain, without masks, without pretending, and without fake smiles. Here are your hosts, John and Christa Klyder.
Welcome to the KBlend Show. My name is Dr. Christa Klyder, and I am your host for today on the KBlend Show, and I'm with my husband, John. He is the operations manager here at the KBlend Program, and we have been running the KBlend Program for well over 6 years now. And we see all different types of patients with mood disorders, from depression, anxiety, PTSD, OCD, suicidal ideations, as well as chronic pain syndromes. Those chronic pain syndromes might be anything from migraines to neuropathies to complex regional pain syndrome. We treat all of those different pain syndromes, and we see thousands of patients every year where we are able to basically transform their lives. How do we do that? Well, we're going to be sharing with you some of the ways that we do that with the KBlend Program, but we're also going to be talking today, John, about one of the concerns that a lot of patients have before they enter the KBlend Program, and even once they get started in the KBlend Program.
Yeah, I think the first one we're going to cover today is simply people are afraid of the idea of getting worse, which I think is hard for people to understand, because I don't know that necessarily they get worse in the KBlend Program, but they get different for the first time.
Well, and worse is different for everybody, but overall it seems like when patients talk about, I don't want to be any worse than I am now, are you going to make my situation, my feelings, my emotions worse? Is this going to completely transform me into a different person? And worse usually meaning their concern, number one, for most people that come through the program, is increased suicidal ideations, or maybe that they have not had them and all of a sudden they're concerned that they might have them, right? Overthinking things like that, anger, increased levels of sadness, that black cloud that's over them.
Well, and I think a lot of people too have no idea how to even understand what worse would look like. I mean, like when you're in that state of depression, you're just not even thinking. Like you're already numb. And really, what is worse? I mean, getting your emotions back. You may not like your emotions, but yeah, that doesn't mean you're worse because you're feeling things.
Well, and when patients start crying during the treatments or between their treatments, that's usually the number one call that we get is, why am I crying? Why am I having this problem? And we simply explain to them, even Jesus wept. Crying is a normal emotion. Being sad is normal, or maybe crying because you're happy.
Welcome
and people
back to
just,
life.
yeah, people just
Right.
don't recognize that that is a normal emotion and outlet that our bodies have.
And for some reason, depression is so consuming that when you're stuck in there, your judgment of what is even a good day is very skewed. Like people will convince themselves that I'm doing better today because I got the job done. I went out and I did something today, and I must be better because I actually went to the store and did the things I needed to do. But if you're honest with yourself, you realize that you're just getting a bigger break. Like you're pushing closer to the cliff.
Well, and oftentimes they might celebrate that day in a way because they did go to the store, but then when they get home, they can't find the energy, the motivation to get off the couch and take a shower, right? So they'll start to substitute one behavior for another, giving excuses and reasons why that they don't have to do some of the things that normal people do in the activities of daily living, right? So when they're in that cycle, though, part of the reason that we've identified here at the KBlend program that we know for a fact based on medical literature is that our patients are often in fight or flight. And that fight or flight, that survival mode every day from depression, anxieties, trauma, it might be something from childhood, it might be something from living through as an adult. But oftentimes our patients can identify that even as young as 10, 11, 12 years old, they remember having a panic attack. They remember being in the corner, hiding behind the washing machine, right? And so having those suppressive thoughts at an early age, and instead of dealing with that, facing that head on, because oftentimes we don't have family support or even friends that we can count on in life, right? And so what we do is then we bottle that up. And unfortunately, when we bottle that up, that's when our bodies, our brains specifically, can't handle that input, that constant level of input. And it almost becomes like white noise inside of your head, right? That white noise every day. And our patients are struggling with that.
Constant haunt, the torment, to the point where they actually believe it's normal. I've actually had people tell me that they thought everyone else had suicidal ideations too. That like it was just normal to have those kind of thoughts. And you don't realize how much you've skewed your perception of what normal should be until we can actually change it. And that's really, I think, why what you do is so powerful. Like, instead of negotiating with someone on the couch, you're able to chemically draw them into making choices and decisions they can't make on their own.
Well, that's interesting that you brought up therapy, because a lot of our patients tell me that one treatment is like 5 years of therapy.
Almost like 10.
So we can accelerate your journey of recovery on the road of recovery for depression and anxiety, again, suicidal ideations. Oftentimes, when you are on that couch, you're self-medicating, and it might not be self-medicating with a substance, but self-medicating perhaps with spending a lot of money and going shopping. And it might be an Amazon addiction. It might be watching junk TV. It might be going and
doing nothing. They love the women go under the covers, the men make man caves. I mean, like, really, those behaviors, they can't really sustain them. Nothing seems to be easier. I like to tell them, like, you're as good as dead anyway, and
most of the time they agree.
Yeah,
if not
they don't
all the
argue
time,
too much, do they?
Because they're not living, they're not enjoying life, and they are in that survival mode where every day they're just worried about eating, drinking, sleeping, going to the bathroom, and that's it. That's all that they can do. They're just functioning at the basic level.
And then it gets to the point where they convince themselves that they are the problem, and that if they were gone,
or that they're too unique to get help.
Yeah, like nothing's going to work for me. I've tried it all, and so my family would be better off if I wasn't here.
Right. Well, that's what I call the island mentality, right? Where you feel like you're on an island all by yourself, that nobody else has ever been through what you've been through, that nobody understands, nobody can picture the trauma that you've had or the grief that you've had. And what the reality is, though, is that we're all humans. And we've all experienced something traumatic, and we've all experienced grief, and we've all experienced sadness. And we do have a common thread about the KBlend program. Although it is very much individualized, we understand how to treat those outlier patients that feel like they're on that island, because we can specifically tailor treatments to them, but we also understand psychology and we understand anesthesia. And the KBlend program is a combination very much of both. And so having years of experience and having seen so many patients on the spectrum of mental health and chronic pain syndromes, we're able to take those patients and treat them oftentimes when they've tried everything else and nothing has worked. And yet all of a sudden the KBlend program gives them the ability to walk again, gives them the ability to play with their kids again, gives them the ability to go back to work or to take a shower.
The simple things.
The simple things in life.
Yeah, it's funny how people lose those basics and then convince themselves they're okay. Like, I'm doing better today. Today's a better day. I'll come and get help when I get work sick again. The bad part is that they don't even know what is better. Like, they don't even realize that what they consider better is a fraud.
Complete the experience. Sign up at www.mykblend.com or call 734-605-8500. If you want John or Christa to speak at your church or your event, call 734-605-8500 and ask for the journey.
Welcome back to the KBlend Show. I'm Dr. Christa Klyder, your host for today, and I am joined with John Klyder, my husband, who's the operations manager here at KBlend. But we also have a very special guest, Estacia. We were just talking a few minutes ago, John and I, about how our patients sometimes struggle with knowing before they come into the KBlend program and also during the KBlend program as they start to go through it about getting their emotions back. Because your brain with depression and anxiety, PTSD, suicidal ideations, all of those mental health disorders, right? You're in survival mode. You're in that state of fight or flight. And we know that based on medical literature from brain scans from big institutions like the Mayo Clinic and the Cleveland Clinic, that your brain actually shuts down when you're going through those diagnoses, when you're living in those diagnoses, I should say. And so what happens is that your brain can't handle all of that chatter that's constantly going through there. It's like a highway, and all of a sudden there's construction that's up, there's maybe accidents that came up, there's all these things that's happening, and your brain just gets completely overwhelmed and overloaded, just like when you're stuck in a traffic jam, right? You lose your brain sometimes, and you might start honking your horn or doing something silly because you just can't handle it anymore. That's what our brains do in those mental health disorders. And Estacia, you have a very unique situation because you were struggling with bipolar and that constant juggle of up and down all day, every day. And again, when you went through the KBlend program, those emotions being restored, that ability to manage those emotions better, to not have that constant up and down. It's almost like you were in a boat with rocky water and then you went to a small pond where there wasn't a lot of waves. How was that for you? What did you experience during that time?
It was really different to actually feel my emotions again. I usually just my brain shuts itself off most of the time, and to actually feel happiness again and to feel like myself again was different. I felt like a different person because I'm just so used to not crying, to just everything turning into anger usually. So it was relieving to feel something.
It almost sounds like you live in the moment now. You can allow yourself to feel those things, but then you move on to something else.
I think it's easier to, when I have thoughts, negative thoughts or anything like I used to have, the certain thought patterns that I used to have, it's easier to think about that and then just let that roll off. I just observe the thought and just let it go.
So you're not fixated on it anymore. It doesn't become overwhelming to you. You're able to process it to work your way through it using that prefrontal cortex that we're able to bring back to life, right, with the KBlend program, and reopen those communication pathways so that way you don't have to just freak out over it. You're able to process your way through and navigate that terrain, how you want to react, how you want to respond.
And I actually talk myself through anxiety, like panic attacks now. I'm still working on that, but I'm getting better at it. I've did it the last week or so.
High five. That's awesome. Okay. So then your panic attacks, how long did they used to last?
I used to have them every day, at least an hour or longer.
Wow. And they were completely debilitating where you were on the couch or maybe you were in a locked room?
I just wanted to lay in my bed and just go to sleep
Okay.
for hours some days.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just sleep all day, mostly.
And how long do they last now when you're able to walk your way through them and talk your way down?
Now, the longest they'll last is usually about like 10 minutes. I want to say 10, longest 20.
That's amazing. And you're still able to function the rest of the day?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's a God miracle right there, right? That you're able to have that quality of life back. Now, the first time that you were on our show, your mom was with you, and we had the pleasure of meeting her, talking with her about your transformation with the KBlend program. And she expressed that she had our daughter, that she didn't think that you were going to live past, what was it, John?
Age 20.
Age 20. That's what I thought. Okay. So that she didn't think that you were going to live past the age of 20. You're well beyond 20 now. And you are not only surviving, you are thriving. She has you. You meaning the way that God intended you to be, that you are whole and complete, and that she is just thrilled that you are thriving in this world, not surviving anymore.
I didn't think I was going to make it this far either. I really didn't. I actually can think about my goals, because if somebody would ask me then, what do you see yourself being in 5 years, I wouldn't know what to say. I have an actual outline of like what I want to do with my life, and I feel like I do have purpose and I do want to do things, and I look outside and I think the sun's shining today and the birds are singing, like those things I wouldn't think about then. I would just be like, yeah, whatever, you know? So now I appreciate the small things, and I look forward to waking up, and I thank God when I wake up. This morning I said, thank you for waking me up today. Back then I wouldn't care about waking up. I'd just be like, oh yeah, another day. So now I'm thankful to be here and to share my story to help other people. So.
Well, and you actually texted me, I believe it was yesterday, or maybe it was today. I'm sorry, the days all blur together sometimes.
Yesterday.
But you texted me and said, I really want to go through phlebotomy school. Would that help you? So you don't just have a plan for the future. You have a calling, you have a mission, because you've talked for a long time how you really want to help people, how that you want to give back and help others who have been in the shoes that you used to walk in, right? Those up and downs constantly every day, the inability to manage yourself sometimes, right? That's pretty amazing that you came from a position where you would maybe be locked in your bedroom all day long, you know, every day nearly when you had those panic attacks, to now you're looking at school, you're working, you're up moving around, you're doing amazing things with your life. You have a plan for the future. How does that feel?
I can't find a word for how it feels. It just feels exhilarating. I don't know how to describe it, I guess. I just feel different. I always use that word. I feel happy, like not fully at peace yet because I'm not where I want to be, but I'm okay with how things are, and I guess content with my life right now.
We have a patient who comes into the clinic, and she often describes feeling like there's a black cloud over her head when her depression rears its ugly head in her life, and that she can tell when that black cloud starts to come back, and she knows that it's time to return for another KBlend treatment. Would you say that maybe your walk today is lighter or heavier hopefully lighter than what it used to be. Do you feel like that black cloud has lifted, that you can see the sun beyond those clouds?
Definitely. I feel way lighter than I was, and I don't feel like there's a black cloud anymore, because it did feel like that, and it felt like this fog too, I guess, over me, like I wasn't clear-headed, and I just was dragging myself through every day. I definitely feel lighter, and I feel more open to things I wouldn't be open to. So I feel like things are a lot easier, especially my thought process and how I do things. I'm still working on the anxiety, having it right now. But yeah, just.
But yet you're here sharing with hundreds, if not thousands of people who are listening, who understand exactly where you used to be and even where you are now, right? Because we treat all different patients, again, on the spectrum of mental health. Some are worse than others, worse. I use that term very loosely and in quotation marks, right? Because how can we measure who's worse than somebody else, really, when you're held in that bondage of mental health? But you have thrived and grown, and I have had the awesome pleasure of seeing you in that state when you first started and then where you are today. I only gave you a tool, the KBlend Program, a tool that you have used to maximize the results and to get the amazing benefits that you've had. How have you been able to maximize those results?
Getting outside was one of the biggest things, especially me not trapping myself, but isolating in my room. Reading really helped me a lot, expanding my knowledge on things, watching YouTube videos about why things work the way they do in the brain. That's my biggest interest. Just meeting with people, because I don't meet with people online usually.
We have slightly edited the next portion, as Estacia will discuss struggles with substance abuse. However, the entire conversation is available on Truthbook, and you can connect with her directly through her page, where she is publicly building her book to tell her story. Complete the experience. Sign up at www.mykblend.com or call 734-605-8500.
Welcome back to the KBlend Show. My name is Dr. Christa Klyder. I am the clinical director at the KBlend Program, and today I am joined by my husband, John Klyder, who is the operations director at the KBlend Program, and we also have Estacia. And Estacia, we are so thrilled that you decided to come back today and update the listeners as to where you're at with your life. As you have been a guest on our show before, you have seen amazing outcomes from the KBlend Program, transformed your life. And you were talking about at the beginning of the show how that you used to have panic attacks nearly every day, crippling to the effect of almost an inability to function the rest of the day. You were thinking about locking yourself in your room, or maybe oftentimes you did do that just to survive, right? Now, today, you are very high functioning. You have goals for the future. You are thinking about what you want to do, where your life is going, where God is leading you. What would you say to the listener who is doubting everything that we have shared on the KBlend Show, who maybe is thinking that you're a paid actress, that really the things that we have shared are too good to be true? They've never heard of the KBlend Program or programs like the KBlend Program, and that they're just doubting that God has a hope and a future for them.
I'd say it was significantly life-changing. If you are worried about if this actually works, it does. I was myself questioning it until I actually decided to do treatments, and I'll try my best to explain how it does work in our brains, because that's my favorite part about it. I've tried to actually tell a couple people that I've worked with, and just people outside of that. I've explained how ketamine works in your brain by rewiring it, the neuroplasticity in your brain. You also have to work with it yourself by doing things that recreate those paths in your brain.
So sometimes patients say, well, does that mean that I'm going to be a completely different person? Am I even going to be myself after the program, or does it turn me into some alien?
it's not actually changing your brain. It's just when you have trauma, it disconnects different pathways in your brain that don't function the way they normally do. So when you have a treatment, it's reconnecting those parts in your brain that were damaged, and you start to do different things that help you come out of your normal wiring of your brain that were created from your trauma. So when you do,
Where do you think you would be if you hadn't have gone through with the program?
I think I would still be doing the same old patterns that I would go into, and I probably would either be in jail or not be sitting here today.
And since the program, you've been able to hold down jobs. You've been able to make new social networks, get out, do different things, be a young, beautiful woman that you are, and experience life again. How does that make you feel?
And at times it's uncomfortable, but it feels like I'm finally getting somewhere, and it feels, I don't know a word for it. It just is surprising that this is where I am today, because I didn't think I was going to ever be in this position that I'm in right now.
Do you think about that every day? How that you shouldn't be in the position that you're in?
Yeah.
How does that affect you?
I try not to listen to that too much, but I do know that I am grateful that I am in the spot that I'm in, and I try to make the most of it every day. Sometimes my anxiety does get the best of me, and I can't put into words what I want to say, but it feels freeing. It feels unreal. It just seems not too good to be true, but it feels good.
Mm-hmm. And thinking about the future, having a desire to help other people, a desire to come to KBlend and potentially work alongside of us, a plan to go to school phlebotomy classes and learn how to work with needles and veins and do that type of thing, right? That's amazing that you went from a life of sadness and isolation to high functioning, having a goal for the future, thinking about where you want to go, what you want to be. That does seem very transformative, life-changing. I'm so thankful that you trusted the KBlend program and that your mom trusted the KBlend program to walk you through the program, and that you have put your trust in John and I to walk alongside of you with the program. And you have been coming to us for the last couple years with battling with diagnoses before this of bipolar, the ups and downs of life to an extreme level, but you have completely transitioned your life. Done a 180, you're facing completely the opposite direction of where you were. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. It's weird to hear it said out loud like that. I never thought about that, I guess, in that way, and it is crazy to think like this is where I am and this is my life right now, and to look back on how things were, it's overwhelming some days, but just to see this is where I'm at now and the way I feel is like all of those things that I went through was worth it. I feel like all of the things that I went through had a purpose to them, and it's amazing to me how far I've came, and now that I have the chance to actually help people and put those things to some use in a good way.
We have slightly edited the next portion as Estacia will discuss struggles with substance abuse. However, the entire conversation is available on Truthbook, and you can connect with her directly through her page, where she is publicly building her book to tell her story. Complete the experience. Sign up at www.mykblend.com or call 734-605-8500.
The hard part is just figuring out what it is that a person's focused on, because that's really what depression is. They get focused on one thing. If you can just fix this, then I'll be okay.
Well, unfortunately, too, we as you brought to everybody's attention, we live in a society that embraces self-medication, or at least self-help. Let's use the term self-help as a broader sense, right?
Oh boy, that's a big moneymaker.
So, yeah, self-help. And so part of that as a subtitle would be self-medication. So you don't like the way you're feeling. You don't like facing the reality that you live in. Self-medicate. It'll be okay.
Well, they do it under the auspices of vitamins, exercise, and...
Well, don't forget about praying more, praying harder.
Oh, I love that one. Like they tell me about how much they pray and how hard they pray. And I'm like, is it anything more than just a motion you go through? Like, when's the last time you've ever felt Christ? And then and they'll make excuses. I read, I'm obedient. Like the nth degree that people will go through to make themselves good with God is amazing to me. And yet, when you really talk to them, you find out they realize they're not just distant from God, they're distant from everybody. They don't have a relationship with anybody in their life. And a lot of times they don't even realize that when they break off all their relationships and they isolate, God's gone too, until you point it out to them. Oh, but they're praying about it. And that's a tough one, to be able to break that kind of news to a person.
And Estacia, you went through a period of your life where you were self-medicating. Do you
even have a sense to do that anymore? Like, if I put alcohol on the table, would that be a temptation for you today? Yeah.
Because I know what's going to come from that. And I want to actually deal with my emotions in the way I feel the regular way, because I know every time I do that, I've learned that it's just making it worse, and it's ensuring that I can just pick something up and cover it up.
But you realize how wrong your answer is to the mental health community today? Like, most people that are in mental health programs are taught that you never recover from that. Like, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. Like, you can't even expose yourself to that. Like, they create incredible rules to box themselves in. And anyone that's in that community probably thinks that you're making that up at this point, because what you say breaks the norm of where I don't even know how many millions of people are trapped today. And these people convince themselves they're better because they're dry. But emotionally, they're as dead can get. And here you are talking about having your emotions, and the alcohol isn't even calling your name. I mean, that alone is a huge victory. I mean, like, do you need to go to AA right now and get yourself a coin in order to convince yourself that alcohol's a bad idea?
No.
Yeah. So that's probably the greatest blessing. That I don't even know if you even stop to think about that, but the fact that that's not even a temptation for you anymore. There's a lot of people who would just love for that. And in fact, there's some of our biggest naysayers. They tell me, oh, all drugs are addictive. And I'm like, oh yeah, you have no idea what you're talking about, but that's what they were taught you, right? And people don't realize how destructive that belief system is.
I've tried to explain that, and nobody gets it, and nobody listens. Like, I just don't have an urge to do that. I don't, like you said, if I literally will tell people, if you set that in front of me, I do not care if it's sitting next to me. We go around people drinking all the time, and it's everywhere. It's the same thing with smoking. It's like in your head. You have to decide, are you going to use this thing as a tool to cope, or are you not? Are you going to do something else that is going to give you an outcome? Or are you going to do that thing that gives you the same outcome every time?
Have you ever considered how you just beat the entire mental health system? I mean, like, do you realize the teaching that's done today that thinks that what you're saying can't possibly be true?
Well, you can also use that mentality on your trauma, right? It doesn't have to define you.
Yeah, if you can beat alcohol, what else can't you beat?
Any of those other triggers in your life, you work on it enough, You tell yourself it doesn't have to trigger me. You're going to train your brain with the help of the KBlend program. You're going to train your brain that they don't have to be triggers anymore. But trauma will always be trauma, and it will always be painful, right? No matter how many Band-Aids you put on that, it's always going to be painful. But you don't have to let the trauma define you and rule you on a daily basis. If you use that mentality that you just shared with alcohol, that can also help you with your trauma.
That one's going to be a long process to get through.
But it's a daily decision, much like the alcohol is for so many people, right? It's a daily decision on the road to recovery from depression and anxiety, from bipolar. It's a daily decision from trauma that it doesn't have to define.
And that's what I'm working through right now, is learning that I am not my trauma and that it doesn't define me. And I was just that person that I was because of what I had to work with and the situations I was in. I had to survive, and I had to be this or that way, and I had what I had to use to be okay in that time frame.
You know, what she says about having to, that is so classic of survival. Like, nobody does the horrible things they do while they're under depression and anxiety to hurt people. But because you isolate and because you have to save yourself, it's self-preservation when you do those things. So, like, even when you do the things that get you put in jail, right? Like, you didn't do those things to hurt people. You were just surviving. And now today, you've changed the entire ballgame. Like, it's not about surviving anymore. It's about actually you're worried about other people. That is a complete reversal of where you were, right? When you came in here the first day, could you even think about the idea of trying to save the next guy?
No.
So I'm really excited because I know that there's somebody who's out there who, again, understands exactly where you've been and potentially where you're at now. And I know that there's a lot of people that are listening who are rooting you on. Go, Estacia, go. Like, you can do this. You can spread your wings and become that butterfly out of your cocoon, right? Well, we have created, through the KBlend program, John, you have created a social media platform called Truthbook. And Truthbook is an amazing opportunity for patients, but also potential patients who want to meet our KBlend patients. But not only that, potentially interact with you and via the messaging system and the posts that you're going to have, where they're going to be able to connect with you on a mental health level. So you don't have to be part of the KBlend program. You don't have to be interested in signing up for treatments with us. This is a mental health platform where those that are listening, who are connecting with you via your words right now, everything that you've shared with us, they're going to be excited to get to know you, see where you're at, and watch you continue to blossom. The people that are out there cheering you on right now, they want you to succeed. We want you to succeed. So any thoughts as to what you would share with them on your first post if they logged into the Truthbook right now, if they logged in today to connect with you?
I would probably share a lot of that too, because a lot of the things that I wrote were when I was struggling. And for some reason, then is when I write the best, is when I'm going through something, introduce myself, and then speak better, because it's hard for me to say what I want to say.
I don't know, Estacia, I think about all the amazing things you've said over the years. I mean, like, a lot of people probably don't even realize Estacia's been with us a long time. I mean, you're halfway through your 20s now. And when we met you, we didn't think, people are telling us you wouldn't make it to your 20s. So, like, you're such an amazing testimony that, even, do you realize there's people that are, just think of the addicts for a minute. Like, we got people in their 70s, 80s, that have been living their lives in a box for decades. you made it out before you were 20. And some of these people have been in these boxes that they've created for 50 years. Some of them more than that. And they've lived year after year in these boxes, believing that they have to function the way they do. And here you're telling them in a few days that you don't even have a desire for the alcohol. Like they get severe anxieties, depression, like terrible things ravage their body when they take the alcohol away. But yet, because they're dry, they consider themselves good. Whereas I don't think that would have even helped you at all. Like the depression, anxiety was so bad for you that you were lucky to live through the day. And here you are ready to tell the next person. And you're telling them things that are unbelievable. So at the end of the day, somehow we're going to help you make that connection to people so they can understand how real you are. I think it's just amazing. You've come from self-preservation to you're now willing to talk to others. And you want to do that. Like, I'm not forcing you to do it, right? I mean, I'm sure it feels like that when your anxieties try to kick in, right? But at the end of the day, you're totally free to come and go. And yet here you choose to come. And you drove a long way. What, over an hour? Just to get here? Congratulations. Well, it doesn't feel like that, does it?
In a weird way, it feels like I'm supposed to do this. And if I don't, it's like I'm going against something. And ever since I don't want to say sober, but ever since I've stopped drinking and doing the same patterns, I can't make a promise and break that promise because all I've done is lie and make promises and do things that go against my morals. So now, today, if I do that and I go against what I say, it bothers me really bad. So that's why if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
Have you ever thought about going into addiction counseling? Because like you speak to addicts well. Like, in fact, that's why everybody is so afraid to help their loved ones, because they know that every time that there's hope, it's going to wind up in hurt again. And so everybody wants to save their loved ones. Everyone's looking for the hope to save their loved ones, but they can't stop the cycle. And here you've broken the cycle to the point where you're in your early 20s living a life that people double your age can't even live. So that's congratulations right there. And the fact that you're testifying to it and you don't even realize the significance of what you're saying. I mean, we didn't tell you to say that, but that's the way you're living. And that's why KBlend is so different, because instead of taking alcohol or drugs or something away from a person, we simply bring you back to life. And as your brain functions the way God intended, you will naturally be a good child, a good spouse. Like you will naturally do the things in life you were meant to do. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, could you say that again about how you honor your word now? Because like you said it so eloquently the first time. Now that you know what it is, could you say it again?
Maybe not in the same way, but I feel like I spent so much time being untrustworthy and being unreliable and being the disappointment that I don't want to do that anymore. And so now it's like when I say something, I mean what I say. And when I do something, I mean what I do. And I just want to be reliable again. I want to be trustworthy. And I want people to see that if I tell you I'm going to do something, that's what I'm going to do. And I've never been able to do that or hold promises. I've only broken them. So now I'm going to stay true to what I say I'm going to do and what I'm going to say.
Wow. Do you know how many people out there just wish their child or their spouse could do that again? In fact, I just talked to a wife on the phone the other day that her husband's a paramedic, I think she said. And I explained that very concept to her, and she just broke down just about weeping. And she said she needed to hear that. And I'm not even the guy, but coming from you, that would be even more powerful than what I told her. Because we get so hurt by our loved ones constantly hurting us because we're stuck in the cycle. And here you've broken the cycle that other people can't break. And you're at a fraction of their age doing it. You have more wisdom than people double your age at this point.
And when you said what you said earlier, it made me think about how just yesterday and today, I thought about how over that time period, I kind of lost trust with myself. And that's what I've been gaining back, is trusting myself and the decisions that I make.
Wow. Do we have time to go into all of that? That is so huge. Like, I don't even know where to begin. Like, the reality is that is where people are at today. And yet they convince themselves they don't need to come get help. Like, they cancel their appointments, right? They know they're not reliable enough to even trust in themselves. And that's one thing I've learned, is you don't have to tell a person that they're evil, that they're bad, that they've hurt you. Like, people know what they've done. Did anyone ever have to tell you, like, all the ways you hurt them?
No.
Yeah, but yet you know it. Like we're all aware of, like, what we've done to hurt people. And yet, here you are completely changing your life in a way that I don't know that you ever knew possible.
It's weird when you put it in front of me, because I never think about it like that. I'm just surprised I said those things out loud. It's just my thoughts the last couple of days is, like, I guess, putting in reflection. I've been reflecting on a lot of things.
One of the things that I deal with on the phone with people is they tell me about all the things they've done in therapy and the treatments they've been through and how they're better today. And what they miss is the part that you just talked about. They miss that reliability. Like, they know that they're still compromised, but they've convinced themselves, because they did all these things and they went to these Bible studies, or they went to Sunday school, or EMDR, name it. Like, people come up with things, even going to the gym. I'm better now. But yet, at the core, they don't have the confidence you have. Here you are in your mid-20s with the confidence to tackle life again. You have the ability to have the life that everyone else only dreams about and thinks they can't have, just in the confidence that you have.
Yeah. I don't know what to say to that. That's a lot.
Well, you're not denying it.
There's some days where I'm like, no, not for a person like me. But then that's where it comes. It's like people like me and people like them become those people that you hear about. The ones that come from a hard life and struggle and deal with different things, or the people that break through those different traumatic things in life and make something and become something and help other people. And that's what I want to do. Be that person.
Congratulations.
Want to be like you guys.
Well, we didn't get here on a very smooth road either. So, the reality at the end of the day is we've all had to struggle, right? But without those struggles, we don't mature. And we don't see things, and we're not able to think in the way that you're thinking today. It's actually the struggles that give us the ability to see the way we do, which is probably why you're so mature. Like, I mean, have you thought about the maturity level that you've obtained? Like, you could probably give your mother a few lessons right now. Like, just the fact that you have been able to see things so differently and go through so much. Like, you speak with the wisdom that someone's twice your age. And you don't even realize the wisdom in the things you say. Because it's natural. Like, it's literally like God built it into your body. All we did was get you to calm and stop fighting long enough that as your brain came back online and you were able to function and have that reasoning and that processing and that problem solving, you figured these things out. It's like God put it in you to figure these things out. And here you're saying that without us ever even having to coach you. Our job is just to not screw it up. Our job is to make sure that you have the freedom to figure these things out. So that's really what KBlend is you have the freedom to figure it out. So, congratulations.
This interview was edited for sensitive content. To hear the entire interview, join Estacia on her Truthbook page. Complete the experience. Sign up at www.mykblend.com or call 734-605-8500.
You've been listening to The KBlend Show with your hosts, John and Christa Klyder. Thank you for joining us. You can find out more about this revolutionary treatment at mykblend.com, or you can speak directly to a KBlend expert by calling 734-605-8500. And join us each Saturday afternoon at 1 for more honest stories of healing and hope with The KBlend Show on 103.5 FM WMUZ The Light. Detroit made, Bible strong.